Friday night. Few new people, lots of old people. Like I'm not going to take too much time. There are two things that I think are really important in these times, in all times. One is connection. And Wednesday night, Greg came in and went to Evie's Expressive Arts group and worked with them for an hour and a half. And the connection of that group is astounding. The other one is putting beauty into the world. And something that all of us can do and all of us could appreciate and support each other doing. And tonight is a celebration of that. I don't know if you noticed coming here, but there's a cave. And in that cave, way in the back, there's an old lady. She's a Native American lady, and she's weaving a tapestry of the world. It's a stand-up loom. She's weaving this beautiful world. And she realizes it's time to stir the pot full of seeds and spores and everything that grows. And if she doesn't do it, it's going to burn on the bottom of that pot. So she turns around, and when she does, the dog that was lying asleep at her feet jumps up and rips the tapestry to shreds. She doesn't despair, she doesn't get mad. It's happened again and again and again and again and again. She simply picks up two threads with the intention that she's going to reweave this tapestry even more beautiful than it was before. This is a metaphor. We can all do this in our lives. We have a program called Wellspring of Imagination every fall. Those of you that have been lucky enough to come to it, we get kids from all over the state, sometimes from all over the country. This year we had an exchange student from Germany, and after Wellspring, he entered the poem that he wrote in the national contest. He called me a few weeks ago and said, I sent that in and I totally forgot about it because I hadn't heard anything, but they called me yesterday and said that I was the national winner. Unfortunately, he's doing the American thing and going to the prom this weekend, so he can't be with us. He's from Cincinnati. But we are lucky enough to have two of the students here. Who wants to go first? Okay. Cherubin, come up. Cherubin is an amazing young man. He's a poet, and he's got that quality that if he goes in a room, the room lights up. And he has passion and enthusiasm well off the charts. He's getting really interested in film now. And tomorrow he's on the Centennial Slam Poetry Contest for Columbus High Schools. And I know he's going to kill it there. He does have one weakness, that someday, if he works really hard, he's going to be able to do more extension push-ups than a man that's almost 5 times older than him. So, here's Cherubin. He'll tell you a little bit about Wellspring and share one of his poems with you.
Hello, my name is Cherubin, like he said, and Wellspring was a really amazing experience. Like Alan said, one of the most important things in this world is connection. And when I went there, it was an amazing connection because it was so intimate, being in a cabin and just writing poetry with other people the same age as you. It's a lovely experience, and we wrote some really cool poems. It was fun. It was like a sleepover at a friend's house, but like in the woods at nighttime. the weekend that we were there, it was like from like, I don't know what days it was, but the northern lights were outside. Like we went outside like every night to look at the northern lights. It was amazing. It was amazingly beautiful, and the connection that I felt with the people there. Ben, he's a kid from Germany. Chaz sitting right there. Everyone in there was so talented and lovely, and I think it was an amazing experience. After I went there, I came back home and I wrote another poem about Wellspring. Like, that's how amazing it was. That's how lovely, and that's how much I loved it. That's how much it connected to me. But yeah. Well, I'm about to read my poem. Let's see. I don't have a name for this poem yet. I'm thinking of calling it Self-Made. I don't know if I'll keep that name, but we'll see. We'll see if it works. Okay. They say this country was built by slaves, but I think it's the other way around. It's African Americans who are built by this country. Everything from our resilience to their stereotypical definition of what we were, objects, or who we are now, which for some reason seems to go somewhere like this: Black people, hairy, scary, dangerous. And so they shoot us and we end up on their front pages. Another life gone, another mom's son. I think he had his hair braided. Just like me. Well, these braids are a labor of love that allow me to express my identity. When I was braided together while sitting down on a chair in the living room, where my hair twisted at the mercy of my aunt's tender hands as they embraced my scalp. They're also a product of my ancestors' labor. When they were sold to plantations, slaveholders wanted them to stay neat and tidy. If not, they would put a razor to their head and force them to shave it. So braids became commonplace. They were used to communicate maps, escape routes, and trails that trailed their scalps. They could turn cornrows into a maze in which they would also hide rice, beans, and pieces of maize in their braids to sustain themselves on their journey of escape. And through this, we amazingly retained our culture. Call that cultural resistance. Through the cornrows, twists, and French braids, we be rocking it. We grasp at the very strands of our identity that connect us to our ancestral roots, a representation of our resilience. They say this country was built by slaves, but I think it's the other way around. It's African Americans who were built by this country. Now, don't get it twisted. Whips will still twist around our necks if we didn't listen. This country didn't do us any favors, so we lifted our fists in favor of ourselves. African Americans boycotted, petitioned, spoke up, also that one day we could declare the words all men are created equal and have it ring true amongst many, a declaration of independence. But the South was still blinded by a screen of white supremacy. So we moved to the North and started the Harlem Renaissance, a cultural revolution, creating music and paintings to film and literature that told our stories and shaped our identities, plays expanded on our history, sculpture sculpted our pride, and through jazz, we became the soul of the 1920s, where in the most repressive time, we created some of our most expressive art. They say this country was built by slaves, but I think it's the other way around. We've come along, it's this country. They say this country was built by slaves, but I think it's the other way around. It's African Americans who were built by this country. Now, we've come a long way, but we start to pray for the day where we live in a system that doesn't try to put us in chains. Because even though back then the culprit was the kanji, our people were able to overcome. So it's not going to be different now that there's unjust white hands around the trigger of a gun. These aren't the first times that our people have died in the arid sun. We've worked hard in the past to get past the system set in place, but we're not done. That's why I'm here, representing, daring to rise up. They say this country was built by slaves, but I think it's the other way around. It's African Americans who are built by this country. And we've come a long way, but we're not done. And we'll fight together till justice is won. Thank you guys for being here. I'm so happy to be here. I'm proud of myself and I'm happy to see the community that's been built around here, around poetry, and I'm just excited to see how much I grow in this, how much I keep on growing. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for
You've already kind of met Chaz on the piano. He's a great musician, also an athlete. He's a debater, speech giver, just an amazing young man. And Chaz Moore, come up please and share your poem. Say a little bit about Wellspring too, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Alan. Wellspring was amazing. It was an awesome experience just meeting everyone and spending time forming our arts. And I really appreciate all the work that Alan specifically has done and everyone that worked with the team. It was great. So, all right. So I actually have, this is a speech that I gave in August, and it's about my dad's heart transplant. My heart racing, I told the emergency dispatcher that the victim is on the ground, clenching his chest, gasping for air, fighting for life. I bend over with tears in my eyes, and I continue to assure him that help is on the way and that he is going to make it. Pressing my index and middle finger against his wrist, I feel the rhythm that has enthralled me since I was a child. However, this time, it was scary. 9 electrical shocks coursed through my father's body in a span of 5 minutes. My father had suffered from a sudden heart attack. Leaning down next to him on the ground, I looked up to see my mother panicking, frantically calling 911 and pacing around the room with fear and uncertainty in her voice. Behind her, I see my 2 little sisters, huddling together on a couch, tears streaming down their faces. I feel the responsibility to be calm in this situation and help my family settle down, yet strong emotions of fear and anxiety course through my body and I feel helpless. Every moment counts, yet all I'm able to do is sit around and wait for help to arrive. Growing up, I loved feeling my father's irregular heartbeat. Gripping his wrist, I would pretend to be a doctor and service a full checkup that included listening to his heart and mimicking the pulses with my voice. Thump, thump, thump. When I was 4, my father experienced a heart attack and survived, and we ended up moving to America from a small fishing village in the Philippines to fully provide his heart with the health care it needs. Thump, thump, thump. Well, 12 years fly by, and it seems that he's doing a lot better. Then, I'm leaning over him on the ground as he suffers another heart attack and is rushed to the hospital. Thump, thump, thump. While he was in the hospital, days felt like months. Most of my time I spent thinking about him, wondering how he was doing and trying to balance newfound responsibilities in the house with my school and social life. I would always try to make time so that I could visit him in the hospital and check up on him. However, walking into the hospital room felt like a nightmare. Machines and tubes protruded from his body, screens posted next to the side of his bed monitoring his vitals. I tried my best to balance all that was on my plate. But one day, I was in the library studying, and I received a text message from my mom that hit me like a punch to the gut. Your dad's heart is deteriorating. He's on the waiting list to receive a heart transplant. I paused for a moment and started to hyperventilate. All this time, I had been uncertain of my father's health, yet now he had an opportunity that could mean life or death. I reflected on my father's sister, who died after receiving a heart transplant some years ago. I also thought about my grandfather, who had died from heart complications as well. Diseases that have affected my family and claimed the lives of so many people for so long, and I realized that my father could be the next. Through this, I thought of my family and realized that I'm not the only one frightened of what's to come. While that night I couldn't sleep, I made sure to tuck my sisters in and wish them a good night. The dreaded thought of losing my father circulated through my mind, and I spent hours running through scenarios of life without him. Before finally drifting off to sleep, I felt my own pulse, an uncontained allegro that didn't seem to slow down. Thump, thump, thump. A few days passed, and I got news from the hospital that they had found a heart and that it might be a match for my father. The next morning, he was scheduled to go into surgery. And after another sleepless night, my mother asked if I wanted to skip school that day and stay home with my aunt and sisters. Instead, I opted to go to school to hopefully clear my mind and seek some sort of normalcy. At least I knew what to expect when going to school. I could socialize with friends during lunchtime and not have to be in constant worry by myself. But of course, school that day was not normal whatsoever. I still found myself anxious and fidgeting, often asking for breaks to go and see if my mom had texted any news from the hospital. However, later that day, I got word that the surgery was successful, and he was doing a lot better. When I saw my aunt pull into the carpool, I was elated to go and visit my dad. Through the tinted side windows of my aunt's silver SUV, I saw my two little sisters, smiling ear to ear. On the car ride to the OSU M. Ross Heart Hospital, I thought of what my life would be like with my father recovering, and considered how my life could ever go back to normal. We arrived at the hospital, and I greeted my joyful mother in the lobby, as she was excitedly waiting for us to arrive. And sure enough, when we opened the door to my father's room, we found him sleeping. While the tubes and screens scattered across him still frightened me, it stood testament to the fact that he was alive and recovering. I rushed to his bedside and picked up his left arm. I pressed my index and middle finger against his wrist and felt a new pulse. It felt stable, like a steady march after a battle was won. Thump, thump, thump. Thank you.
A couple years ago, after the Wellspring performance, a friend in the audience came up to me and said, "Where was all this when I was a kid? Why don't you have Wellspring for old people?" And I said, I guess we'd have to call it Wellsprung. But we called it Never Too Late, and we have some people here tonight that attended that program and learned that making art is important for yourself. It doesn't need to be judged, but it's the doing it that's important. And I would like to ask Pete Bates to come up here, because he was the one that encouraged us to do that. And Pete has been gracious enough to share one of his poems that he's written. Thank you, my friend.
First off, I want to say a few things about Wellspring. I look around the room and I see about a dozen people here that are friends because of that seminar that I went to. But that probably isn't the most impactful thing. The most impactful thing was that it encouraged me to write, to sit down and write. And a few times that I did, I went to Alan and said, "This stuff is terrible." He said, "Yeah, probably, but who are you writing it for?" I'm like, "Well, me." He said, "Well, then you don't need to be the critic." So it sure made things a lot easier. So one thing, probably the best thing out of the whole thing is friends. Like it was said earlier, the connections we made together have lasted a long time, and they're solid. So that's cool. Anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about elderhood. Since we've had youth, you got an old man up here. So what was once an orderly, disciplined, and predictable life is 19 years in the rearview mirror. I don't shine in today's world as I once did. It's okay. Confidence replaced with the unknown. Rock-solid truths replaced with questions. Molehills with mountains. The need to conquer with the need to explore, learn, and enjoy. Is this elderhood? I don't know, but I do love it. Things appear chaotic. In my mind, it's just a simple truth. One that is easier when observed rather than controlled, enjoyed rather than subdued. Not all is bliss. An aged life has a way of humbling me. Surgeries, complications, and a wayward lightning bolt. To see light where there is darkness is a blessing. To continue on in things that bring me happiness, a smile among the wrinkles, a twinkle in the eye. And I know there are grave issues ahead that I am sure of. So lean on me while you can, for I am strong, wise, and loving. I dedicated that, and I'm going to send it to all my grandchildren and my I even have great-grandchildren. So.
Pretty good.
Not bad for an old guy.
Loved it. We have two fantastic poets tonight. Both of them have been here before, and some of you have been lucky enough to see them. But they're coming with new material tonight. First one is my friend George Bilgier. George is... Oh, you...
This is the awkward part. Which do you prefer? You're going to be entertaining. You should go.
We have two great poets here. I was ready last year to give up power poetry. What I do this for one part that's most gratifying to me, is having people that become my friends and get to hang out with them and learn things and laugh a lot, sometimes cry a little. And last year, I thought, well, I'll try Greg Orr. I've tried him before, and he was always busy. He had this wonderful graduate writing program at University of Virginia. And I talked him into it somehow. And he came last year, and it was like instantly he was my brother. And Evie kind of likes him too. I think he likes her a little. And he's going to read some new poems for you. Here's how dumb I am. I called some woman to come to read with George, and she said, I can't do it. And I have a friend. And I looked up the friend, and she went to Greg's program. And I called Greg to check her out. And without mentioning names, he said she's really smart, but she's kind of closed, doesn't share much of herself. And I thought, And for those of you old enough to watch Kung Fu, is there anybody in here that used to watch that show? I thought, why am I asking Greg about the grasshopper when I could have one of the masters? So I called him the next day and said, would you like to come back? And he said, how much do I have to pay you to do it? So, with that introduction, one of my favorite people, Greg Orr. Yeah, I'll tell you.
Yeah, like two things he left out. One is he thought I had been invited to come and had turned it down, but in fact I had never known about it. So the first time, I had never heard the offer to come here. And so the first time I actually got one, of course I wanted to be here because I knew all about this place. I'd heard about it from my students and stuff. A few other things. I don't have a watch or anything else. Al is supposed to jump up and down in 20 minutes. Then I will know. One other thing, these are mostly from a new collection, and they're almost all very short and simple. Well, they're all simple. Most of them are very short. So, if you blink, they might go by. Here is the world. Here is the word. Here is the world. It's all there is. It's all you'll be given. It's the all you've been given. You'll be given all. Here is the world. Here is the word. I give you my word. You give me your word. Here we are, together in the world, exchanging our words. I like your word for it. It seems so exact, so accurate. I repeat what you just said. It tastes good in my mouth. I like your word and affirm it. See, that was short. Yeah, if you're right. No, don't do that. You know how much time you don't want to do anything like that. When you write short poems, you put them together and they get longer. Put, in different sections and stuff. That was in 3 sections. But I don't like to say 1, 2, 3, so I'm just going to pause there. This is a thing called The Country of Us for my wife. And it has an epigraph that sort of sets it up. It says, it's from Martin Buber. He says, "The world is not comprehensible, but it is embraceable through the embracing of one of its beings." So I made up this place called The Country of Us. The country of us. It was made up. It was made up of us. 2 misfits who never imagined they'd find a place where they belonged. It didn't augur well the fact that we didn't meet, we collided. Yet each sensed the other had something they needed. Negotiations ensued, and once begun, never broke down. First, a truce, eventually a treaty. The rest became history. I like to think I and you came together as a country of us because they were destined for mutual rescue. Not unlike the word and the world. Those entities so eager to be introduced, so they confuse in a way that's erotic, though not necessarily lewd. In the country of us, a single inland sea. It's not huge, but it's deep. Evaporation has caused its salt content to climb over time to such a density you can walk across. Tears are its source. Natural resources, they are rumored to be huge but hard to access deposits of love. Fracking? Bad idea. Old ways are best. Pick and shovel will dig together. What's down there, deep in the earth, we'll share. Whatever we find is both yours and mine. Priests and police, they become unemployed. Everyone is his or her own is a popular motto. Each of us knows the laws and can make an arrest, and each can bless. The world is full of invisible kingdoms, of lands that individual brains delineate and claim. Unlike those, the country of us is visible, has substance, souvenirs and stamps, its own money, rates of exchange, a flag, a pledge of allegiance. Another one on that. Called Song of Old Lovers. Our bodies, lock and key, a drop of oil if it's rusty. Something turns in me. Our bodies, the sea and the shore, the bee and the flower, eternity dissolving into hours. Time is the dial sweeping the face. Time is the turtle winning the race. Another poem from my wife. She gets a lot of poems in this book. The weird thing is she doesn't necessarily like them. So that's weird. Oh, I'll write a poem about myself. Count your blessings. Count your blessings. I don't know whether my mother used to say that as a kid. I never once added them up until now, returning from my brother's house where he prepares to die. Sitting in his backyard, I saw in his eyes how grateful he was for his life, for the fact of having been alive. 18,000 nights you and I have slept side by side. So I get into doing two things. One is I started writing some proverbs because I thought they were sort of really interesting short poems. You know, I have a contest with myself, how short a poem can you write? But I put several proverbs together that I sort of made up into a kind of what I'd call a sort of sonnet. And of course, it's not really a sonnet, it's just sort of. But that gave me a lot of freedom with whatever the hell a sonnet is. sort of sonnet for lovers made of odd proverbs. Absence makes the heart go ponder, but also makes the mind blinder, can cause the entire emotional life to flounder. If you find her, hold on to her. If you find him, keep an eye on him. Proverb isn't funny, you're doing something wrong. Okay, some more proverbs. More proverbs and odd sayings. A foe more faithful than my friends. Paradoxes never end. For the trunk to climb, the roots must dive. Absence makes the heart go find her. I kind of like that one, I guess, that absence business. If you've hired a tiger to guard your sheep, you shouldn't sleep. That shameful thing I did, easier done than said. If you lie to yourself, not a bad idea to hide yourself. Know yourself before you show yourself. Others have eyes. As for spite, it's best kept out of sight. No one but us can love our grudge. Study that face. It's the surface of the heart's deep lake. The eyes of love see more than they judge. If the head was in charge, would the heart follow? I don't know, but if the heart always led, we'd soon be dead. When flattery is butter, everyone's bread. Larks can't sing in the dark. Dawns don't last long. Be ready. Practice your song. Spending time in front of a mirror, we see less than we reveal. Gazing into the face of another can make anyone a better lover. That sorrow, maybe it troubled our surface to get at our depths. Not all doubts shout. In the dark, a whisper's loud. Poems can't help but bless. Even the darkest says yes. A grief so deep, it emerged on the other side. Each time the bird flies, it's a new sky. You got the 5-minute warning yet? elegy for it all. This borrowed world, it isn't property. Or if it isn't ours. We never owned it. It only seemed so at the time. It's true, parts of it were in our keeping. Trees and rivers, for instance, many of which we've damaged or destroyed. They weren't ours to begin with. We should have taken better care of them. Even as we speak, another vanishes completely, goes the way of the Carolina parakeet, the passenger pigeon. Now, neither sadness, nor saying, nor rage can alter their fate. We must have voted somewhere in our secret hearts that we didn't need them. And now, it's true, we don't. Although our trip will be that much lonelier without them. A whole species no more than a small, bright torch someone held aloft as we all marched into the deepening dark. And now it's gone out. Just a few more. What my heart said to my head. Yes, it's wise to be resigned, to say, so be it, and just shrug. But also, what about becoming active and involved? Accepting the challenge as in become it, or at least try it on for size. Who knows? Another skin might fit fine. It's not as if being you has been that much fun. A change could only enliven. Yes, it's easier said than done. That's why we're always praying. Angel of otherness, reach across to us. Exploded Villanelle on my 78th birthday. A villanelle is a very crazy type form where the first and third lines keep coming back, repeating themselves. But this villanelle is exploded, so you don't have to worry about the pattern. That's what happens when you turn 78. Exploded villanelle on my 78th birthday. It's a fact that this world is a wild river flowing through time. Never a pause. No wonder we respond to it with a shiver. What the next moment might deliver, no one knows. Wrap that thought in gauze, thick as you like. Once it's inside you, it gnaws like a sliver. It's a fact that this world is a wild river isn't anyone's fault. It's a given without a giver. How to respond to it with wonder and a shiver. 3 short last poems. Celebration at the end of long labor. Most all that I had to say, I've said. And snowy-headed as those old Chinese poets I love, I can at last set down my pen. But tell me how that happened. It was only a sapling when I began. Maple that shades my cottage now. Called In Praise and Gratitude. House made of flesh and moan. Nowhere I'll ever go will suit me so. We end where we began. We begin where we end. Could both those unverifiable statements be true? I don't know. I'm not even sure end and begin refer to anything real. I mean, they're just words. They sound important. So does the word death, which I must admit seems to take on more substance the older I get. And yet, who really knows? We begin and we end. We end and we begin again. This is a poem for Al. To be alive, not just the carcass, but the spark. It's crudely put, but if we're not supposed to dance, why all this music?